Hey, hi, and howdy, friends. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new, I'm Courtney. I do what's for dinner videos, food prep videos, and grocery hauls. So if you're all about what's going on in my kitchen and what I buy at the store, you want to see all the goodies that I cook for my family, make sure you hit that subscribe button, stick around, check out my playlist, drop me a comment so we can get to know each other. And thank you for joining me here. All right, y'all, it is Saturday, so we're doing the What's for Dinner video. These come up every week. This week I made 3 meals because we were super busy and we had a lot of leftovers. We're going to start off with a Mediterranean one-pot pasta. I was the most excited by this dish. I was also the most disappointed by this dish. It is not bad, and I think a lot of people would really enjoy it. I am just not one of those people. I will tell you why when we get there. It is a solid dish. I knew better than to put something in there that I didn't like, but I followed the recipe and I just was displeased at the end of the day. So you start off by adding your water. It's supposed to be chicken broth too. You guys know I don't keep chicken broth in stock, so I just threw a bouillon cube in there with my water, a can of fire roasted diced tomatoes, and I filled that can with water to rinse it out as well. We're going to throw in some artichokes and some black olives. You can really use any kind of olives you want. People in my family are kind of picky. My husband does not like anything except for black olives. He doesn't like green or Kalamata or anything like that. So I just use plain old black olives. I threw in my pasta. I'm using wagon wheels because that's what was in my pantry and I need to use them up. So I went ahead and tossed them in here. And then I'm seasoning this with, I believe it's thyme, salt, and pepper. And here in a minute, I'll remember that I diced up an onion that I need to add in there as well. I totally forgot. And then here's where things went awry. I am not a huge fan of cumin. Just not. There are some dishes that it belongs in and they wouldn't be the same without it. And there's other dishes where I just know for a fact that I'm not going to love it. And I had a sneaking suspicion that I was not going to love it in this dish because I knew I was going to be able to taste it. But I wanted to follow the recipe because I thought, well, what if I'm wrong? So I gave it a shot. I was not wrong. I knew exactly what I was talking about. I could taste the cumin. It was so strong to me just because I don't like the flavor of it very much. So that kind of ruined this dish for me. Other people in my family liked it. In fact, my oldest son loved it. Another thing I did realize when I tasted it here, it had been boiling and it didn't soak up all of the water, which was okay. But man, was this bland. So I'm throwing in some tomato bouillon to kind of like zhuzh it up a little bit. And man, that made a huge difference. So I do recommend that. But there's the pasta. I served it with some bread and then some olive oil mixed with like some dried garlic and stuff, kind of like what they serve at some of those Italian places, the dipping oil. So overall, the meal was okay. I ate it. I mean, it was good enough to eat, but I would not make it again with the cumin in it. So if you like cumin, if it doesn't bother you, you're probably going to love that one, but make sure you add in the tomato bouillon or put in some tomato paste or something because it does need a little extra kick of flavor. All right, let's make some tuna noodle casserole. I know some of you probably grew up eating this and didn't love it, but I found this recipe probably about a year ago. And we love it, and we don't like tuna noodle casserole. So this one really makes all the difference in the world to me. It just is kind of dressed up just a little bit with some simple ingredients. So I'm going to start off by sauteing an onion, and I went ahead and seasoned this with some salt and some pepper. I threw in a little bit of extra garlic and onion powder just because I always feel like that helps. And of course, I am cooking this in my garlic oil as well. And I'm also going to add in some Italian seasoning. I'm not going to go nuts with it. And this is not like just the herbs. This is the Kinder's Italian seasoning. So it has like some lemon peel in it as well. It's really, really tasty, but I kind of felt like it was going to brighten this up, and it sure did. So if you've got something like that, I highly recommend it. Even lemon pepper would probably do the job just to kind of brighten it a little bit, or maybe just a little bit of lemon juice. I mean, it's totally up to you. You don't have to. It was like barely even noticeable in flavor, but it definitely brightened up what could be kind of a heavy casserole. So the onions are sauteing and doing their things. I'm going to go ahead and toss those egg noodles in there. You only need half that package. This is not a gigantic casserole. And considering my husband and I are the only ones that are eating it, and we've been eating it for lunch every day this week, this was actually a really good meal. It works well on its own. You don't have to serve anything else with it because we're going to put peas in it in a little bit. But also, like, it just is good, and it's hearty, and it's tasty. Just really definitely a winner. So those onions are looking like they're coming along pretty nicely. I didn't like completely cook them all the way because we're going to add a bunch of other things in there with these guys. We're going to make kind of like the casserole saucy filling that goes in here. once the onions are finished cooking. And of course, like I said, those egg noodles are cooking next to them. So make sure your noodles are cooking as well. You don't have to use egg noodles. You could use any kind of noodles you want, but I'm using those because that's what the recipe called for, I think, or in my brain, I think that's what goes in there. All right, so we're going to add some cream cheese in here. Now, I do go shy on the cream cheese because I find that the flavor of cream cheese can kind of take over. Like if it doesn't bother you, put in the full amount. I just know for myself and my household, we don't dislike cream cheese. It just kind of has a flavor that can just be really powerful sometimes. And I knew that's not what we wanted. So whenever a recipe like this calls for cream cheese, I always go a little light on it. It's just a personal preference. You don't have to do that. Or if you don't love cream cheese, you can skip it altogether and just add in some yogurt or some sour cream, and that's fine too. Really, the little bit of cream cheese it called for is not going to be a deal breaker on whether or not the dish works. Next, we're going to add in some cream of mushroom soup. This recipe also calls for diced mushrooms, which I did not throw in there just because my husband does not love mushrooms. He likes things that I cook that have mushroom flavor, or he likes the cream of mushroom soup, but he does not like to bite into a mushroom. So I just skipped adding those in. No big deal. I love mushrooms, but I mean, it's fine either way. All right, so once that soup has been mixed in, I'm going to add in some milk as well. And we're doing all of this over the heat on the stovetop. It really does kind of help everything combine together really, really nicely. And once this has come together, we're going to go ahead and add in our protein, which is tuna. But I really feel like for this casserole, you could add in any type of protein that you want. Maybe you want to do salmon, like from the can or something, and that's cool. Or maybe you want to do like shredded chicken or shredded turkey, and that works too. I am doing it with tuna because it is a tuna noodle casserole, but I mean, I think it would be fabulous with any of those other ones. And plus, if you're going to do poultry, throw in some diced carrots too, because I think that's going to be amazing. All right, I have drained my tuna, and I'm going to add in 2 cans for a total of 10 ounces. I did put a little parsley in there too, because I felt like we needed some color in that creamy mixture. It was just looking a little bit bland to me, and I wanted something to kind of pop in it, so I thought parsley was the way to go. You don't have to do that, or maybe you have like some fresh green onions you want to throw in there or something else. Go for it. Just kind of play with it and have fun with it. I like to do that in the kitchen. I think that I know what my family likes, especially if I've tried a recipe before. I like to just kind of play around and change things up a little bit according to our preference. So I think everyone should do that just because it makes cooking a lot more fun and enjoyable. So I've added in some sour cream as well, just to kind of make this a nice creamy mixture. You can see probably that I did just boil over the water for the noodles in the pot next to this. I do that so often. I forget to pay attention to what I'm doing on the other burner, only what's in front of me. And before I know it, I've got a big mess on my hands. It happens all the time, but no big deal. All right, so now the tuna is all incorporated. I'm going to throw in some frozen peas. This is not in the recipe. This is my own personal thing. You do not have to do this. Or maybe you have another veggie you want to throw in there. That is cool. You do what your household likes. I just happen to know, while I'm not the biggest fan of peas, the rest of my household is. And peas, for whatever reason, are beautiful in this dish. So now the noodles are done cooking, and we're just going to stir this creamy sauce into those noodles to kind of like form the casserole at this point. I know this looks like a lot of filling, but trust me, or a lot of liquid filling, but trust me, because when we bake this, those noodles are going to soak a lot of it up. It's not going to be liquidy or anything by the time you are done with this. And honestly, I don't see why you couldn't serve it this way if you really, really wanted to. The only benefit to baking is we're going to put some delicious stuff on top of it. It's going to give it texture and beautiful flavor. And I just feel like it can't be missed. But you don't have to, if you didn't want to turn on your oven or something, you could totally stop right here. No big deal. So I've got my casserole dish. Again, this is a casserole on the smaller side. You don't need a whole 9x13 for this. I did spray this with some nonstick spray for easy cleanup at the end because I know this kind of stuff does have a tendency to stick. So I'm just going to kind of spread it out evenly and, make sure it's like down in the corners and stuff on this pan. And it's good to go. So we're going to top it with 2 things. First of all, cheddar cheese, because I feel like that's the classic thing. Like every tuna noodle casserole I have ever seen is topped with cheddar cheese. So I'm not going to break the cycle there. We're totally going to throw some cheese on there, but we're also going to put some fried onions on top. And this for me is what does it. These fried onions, oh my gosh, like they really can make anything so much better. I love them. Like my oldest son will just eat them by the handful. Occasionally I'll snack on one while I'm making a dish, but they really do bring texture and flavor. They're salty and they're crunchy, and they've got that oniony flavor. I mean, they really just are good. So I went ahead and put a very generous layer of them on top of this casserole. My casserole is a little on the thick side. I didn't have a pan in between this and a 9x13, so I just went with this, which is fine. This ended up being perfect. It's like 6 servings when you break it up in the casserole dish, which was awesome. But there it is. After you bake it, they get crispy on top. The cheese melts. The casserole is just like ooey gooey and delicious. This is definitely one of my favorites, which I think is crazy because as a kid, when my mom said we're having tuna noodle casserole, like I just wanted to cry. As an adult, this particular tuna noodle casserole does it for me. All right, last meal of the week is chicken paprikash. I don't know how to pronounce it, so if I am butchering it, I am so sorry. This is something I've seen on Pinterest before, and I always just like put it in my list of things to try, and I don't get around to it, so we're totally doing it. I've got some cubed up chicken thighs. You could use chicken breasts if you want. Whatever you have is cool. And I put it in my big pot because we're going to be making a sauce of sorts with this. This is very like butter chicken tikka masala. Like that's what it reminds me of when it's all done. So I seasoned this with some salt and pepper, and we're cooking it in my garlic oil as well. And I decided for a little extra flavor and color, mostly flavor, I'm going to throw some butter in there. I've got that Kerrygold. I've had this for a little while, so I probably need to use it up. Typically, I use it a lot when we bake bread around the house, but with it being so hot outside in Texas, I am not wanting to turn on my oven, so I've not been baking bread during the summer. So that's just kind of like hanging out in my fridge, and I need to use it. All right, the chicken is pretty much done cooking, and so I'm going to go ahead and remove it from the pan. I'm leaving all the juices behind. That's like butter and chicken juice and all that. We're going to be adding chicken broth in here anyway, so I don't see any reason to drain that. I'm going to go ahead and toss in 1 onion and the equivalent of 1 bell pepper diced up. I buy the like mini sweet peppers because I use them for salads and for snacking as well. But if you want, just go get like 1 big bell pepper and that's cool too. I just kind of work with what I have, and that's what my family enjoys the most. So that's what I typically buy. So we do use all of it. I'm also throwing in a little bit of my confit garlic. If you're curious about that, there is a link in the description box. So you can check out that short video on how I make it. Fantastic. Like my actual favorite like spice or seasoning that I have in my kitchen. I do like to season all the layers, so even though we put salt and pepper on the chicken, we're also going to salt and pepper our veggies here just to make sure everybody has tons of great flavor. All right, so now I'm going to toss in a couple of seeded and diced Roma tomatoes. I just kind of quarter them and then cut out the inside. That's where all the juicy seeds and everything are. Essentially, you just don't want any added moisture to this or any of the seeds, but they are totally raw tomatoes. I imagine if you wanted to or needed to, you could substitute some diced tomatoes in a can. I just really don't see why not. But I had some tomatoes, so no big deal. I went ahead and just chopped those up and got them ready. And it wouldn't be a chicken paprikash without paprika, I'm guessing. I'm actually using a combination of mostly regular paprika, but a little bit of smoked paprika because that is my favorite kind. Just because I love that flavor so much. And I'm going to tell you, for the little bit I tossed in there, you really couldn't taste the smokiness from it, so don't worry about it. If you only have regular, that's actually what it calls for. I think it says like sweet Hungarian paprika. I have like Walmart paprika, but I think that worked out okay. So I went ahead and tossed in a bouillon cube because we're supposed to be adding chicken broth to this. And again, as I said earlier, that's not something I keep on hand. I keep bouillon or chicken base. Currently it is bouillon cubes because I found them in my pantry and I need to use them up. So I went ahead and tossed one of them in there, and they dissolve so quickly when there's just like a tiny bit of really hot liquid. I never have much success in like dissolving them in hot water. But in stuff like this, they just kind of melt right into it. It's perfect. So I tossed it in now. And then we're going to go ahead and add in some flour because we do want to thicken this. I will link the recipes for these dishes down below so you guys can have exact measurements. I do always feel like when it comes to stuff like this, you really are kind of eyeballing that flour because you know what you're looking for. And sometimes there's like excess liquid and things you add. So it really is hard to go off measurements on that. You just want it to be like nice and thick and pasty. We want to let that cook for a minute. I'm going to go ahead and toss the chicken back in here now. We want to let that flour flavor like cook out of that. So just need to wait like 1 to 2 minutes, not long at all for that to happen. And then I'm adding in water. This would be where you add in your chicken broth. But as I said, I use the bouillon cube. Go ahead and give that a good stir. And you do want to kind of stir this quite a few times over the first like 3 or 4 minutes because it will start to kind of get like real thick on the bottom of the pan. You want to make sure that all that flour has incorporated into the liquid really well. And you'll see that it thickens like that right there, which is not like gravy thick or anything, but it is definitely thick thickened up from where it was. And we're going to let it continue to simmer, but we're also going to add in some heavy whipping cream, and that is going to help thicken it as well. And basically, you just let this simmer, and then you can serve it over noodles or rice. I have opted on this particular night to serve it over mashed potatoes because I have potatoes in my pantry, and I've been doing like a lot of rice lately, so I thought I'd shake things up a little. And then I just served a can of green beans on the side, the seasoned green beans. They taste fantastic. And this was amazing. It was so good. I do recommend it. And I think, I will probably work on it in the future, but I think this could be a slow cooker recipe, no problem, especially for winter. All right, y'all, thank you so much for watching and joining me here. I appreciate all of you guys so much taking time out of your day to be with me. Thank you. Have a fantastic weekend, guys. Bye.